Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Health Tech Living Lab Summit here in Tallinn. And now we're online because we had some organizational problems because of this virus situation in the whole wide world. But we talk about it with Piret Hirv, who's the representative of Technopolis. And my name is Marjo Näkki. I'm the moderator of this event, but this event is going to happen and it will happen, so welcome online. And good morning, Piret, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you for asking. And actually, this is a live proof how technology can actually enhance and save the world and make our lives better, like also in healthcare. And that's why we decided to continue with the event and actually talk about these important issues, how to implement innovation in healthcare.
So what is the program for today?
Today's program is a bit shorter than we planned, but we will have a pretty good and interesting presentations about a bit policy level and also very practical experiences shared with people who trying to implement innovation in their establishments.
So we were supposed to have public in place to ask questions, but because of this virus situation in the world, we are going to have this event online. Is there any opportunities for the public to ask questions?
Yeah, if you follow us through our Facebook site, then you can ask questions, and we can collect those questions and ask from the presenters. And so we do everything to actually have this interaction between the audience out there and presenters here.
So we are going to talk about e-health and innovation and technology. What kind of questions would you like to have answered during this day?
Well, for me and for our companies in Technopol and Connected Health Cluster, the main crucial question is how to make it easier to implement innovation in healthcare, how to make it more clear, and it should not consume resources that much, because we do need all these innovative solutions. At least while I'm doing this, I'm getting old. And in the future, I want to have really effective, safe, validated solutions for myself. So I have a personal agenda here.
Very good. Sounds good for me as well. Do you have anything else you would like to say at this point?
I think that we are flexible. We are trying to have as many presentations online as we can. We should continue until 2 o'clock, approximately, without any breaks. So just follow us, and we will also record all the presentations, so the information will be stored and distributed after this webinar as well. So we are doing something that is really relevant for us, really relevant for the companies, for the hospitals and healthcare workers. So we are trying to do our best to maintain the healthy lives.
Brilliant, sounds good. So, without further ado, Health Tech Living Lab Summit is on its way now, and our first presenter is Esther Davidsen, EU Policy Advisor and Project Developer for the region of Zealand, and she's going to talk to us about quattro helix collaboration in the Baltic Sea region. Provan Health.
Am I online? Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to me. Yes, I'm going to introduce, I'm very happy, very delighted to be here today. First, a little bit about myself, and I added this photo yesterday as a message of hope. This is me kite surfing in Thailand in January. I started kite surfing when I was 42, and now I am actually becoming a wave surfer. So the message is there's always hope, there's always something to learn, there's also always something to embark on. I also have credentials and merits. I've changed career a couple of times, but I remain in the domain of policy and now in the sector of health and health innovation. Just like Piret, I wanted to have a healthy aging, as you can see. I want to be able to continue to kite surf for a long time, and I think we should be much better at navigating in this complex environment of all the many actors that are involved in taking care of our health. I also run a startup where all the technologies that are actually that are on the market can get user ratings and feedback. So this is really aimed at the users, for the users, by the users. So this is a little bit about me and the background for doing the work that I do. So recently we had a conference in Denmark on welfare technologies, and the issue of public-private innovation is still very much, or even more, on the agenda. We are all struggling to find ways, to find methods of bringing innovations to the public sector, of the public sector being able to formulate the innovation needs. And this is a survey saying that the innovation, the public, or the innovations done in collaboration with external partners just works much better, that the quality is higher, and also we need to involve the knowledge institutions. This is I think studies that are being done all over Scandinavia, not only in Denmark, but also in the Baltic Seas, in Poland, everywhere. Public-private innovation, we need to continue. So this is an illustration of a quattro helix DNA string, showing that these are some of the actors, some of the groups of actors that are involved. We have the public authorities, we have the industry, which all SMEs, but also established industry, academia, the research world, the universities, and then the citizens. And we need to collaborate, intertwine, to come out at the end with innovative, applicable, implementable solutions. So why a quattro helix approach? This is traditionally in economic development, we talk about triple helix, where the innovation is happening at the universities or at in the big, large companies, and then the policy world sort of helps those innovations to the market. But in the health sector, the citizen is at the center. So it's the end users' needs that need to come to the floor and needs to be understood by all those inventing. And that creates a quattro helix with 4 partners. And we also have proved that when you involve the end users and the citizens, the patients in the quattro helix innovation structures, then the products are much more likely to be adopted and accepted and bought and used, and there's much more transparency. The innovators and the end users understand each other, which is a major issue. It's a major issue. What are the needs of the end users, and what do the technological people see as possible new innovations? Sometimes we have a situation where we have the solution before we have a problem, and then we have to invent the problem. Better to look at the problem first and then look for the solution, and that entails asking and talking to the end users. And then we get social innovation, which is, of course, what we all want to move ahead in society. So this is another slide illustrating the complexity. This is the quattro helix headlines, but adding details for all the different sectors and with the citizens, patients in the center. One of the ways we tackle the quattro helix collaborative challenge is to create ecosystems, innovation ecosystems. And they have many different shapes and forms. They can be in network organizations with memberships, or they can just be loose connections, or they can be very small projects, even at a school or at a company. An ecosystem can have many different shapes and forms, but I think it's important to talk about ecosystems, to talk about innovation ecosystems as spaces and entities where we can have dialogue, where we can communicate and talk to each other. And then it's also important to create some visibility or some branding around the ecosystems to show that they're actually there and that they work, and to encourage others to start the same type of work, because it's difficult. It's out of our comfort zone. It's not what we are used to do, and people don't talk and think the way our peers do. So you have to really continue communicating about it at events, conferences, etc., like we're doing today. So the message is really that for each innovation need, you have to choose there's a different method, and you cannot know necessarily in advance which method works. So to have a sort of linear program doesn't necessarily work. So we need really different methods and to look at what it is we want to achieve. One of the methods is the living labs, and we had a long talk about that yesterday also at the Prova Health final event, which are sort of open space, and they can also have different forms. They can be physical places, but they can also just be open doors into an organization or into people who will help structure the process. And there I've also listed a number of methods: sprint, scrum, hackathon, jams, simulation. There's many more, but these are some of the methods that we use to involve the partners in the living lab structures to produce a reasonable, sensible product that involves all the users and that makes sense at the end. And that leads me to the last part of my presentation, which is coming back to the Prova Health project of yesterday. We have done a lot of deep analysis in the project on the workings of the living labs, on the business models. We have tested, companies have tested cross-border how the living labs work for them in other countries. We have interviewed 82 SMEs on their expectations for the living labs, what sort of services they want, and we've come up with 7 policy recommendations that I will now present to you. So the first one is that to have this quattro helix thinking and the living lab structures, the living lab thinking, the open innovation thinking, you need a strong policy support. You need a strong policy support also in time, so that it's not only within the sort of short electoral circle, something happening and then something new happens when another set of politicians comes in. You need long-term policy support at all levels, and that also entails the EU level, and that was a little bit a surprise to us, that you actually really need the sort of strategic look from above, from the EU level, for these priorities to trickle down to the national, the regional, and the local levels. So the EU must mention quattro helix or ecosystems or living labs as a priority development tool, and then we can see the effects at all levels. It has to be mentioned at all levels. And then the collaboration at the local level must be really strong, and the local quattro helix collaboration must stand on a basis of collaboration already happening, or the strength or the needs at the local level. So it's really everybody has to be involved. And that leads me to say that then, of course, that requires dialogue, the cross-sector collaboration. So these are the 4 elements of the quattro helix DNA string. We can see that there's a disconnect between the industry, the end users, and the care providers. Little mutual understanding. So we really have to create those platforms to connect and understand each other, to get these innovations that we all want on the market. And that also means that the policy design, so the basic text, the strategies that we draft in our committees and in our political organizations must include words on that involves the end users, that creates these dialogue platforms. We must be able to collect ideas from the healthcare system to inspire our healthcare workers, our hospital systems to come forward with new ideas, with the needs that they see in their everyday work. We must create those meeting platforms, the dialogue spaces, and then we must be able to have the dialogue and the exchanges, and that is, I think, that is also very difficult because our cognitive brains are made to understand a certain worldview, and it's difficult for us as humans to change. So, and this is the fourth recommendation is a little bit internal, and this comes from the interviews of the 82 SMEs. The living labs themselves, or the structures for innovation, must be really professionally driven, and the SMEs had high demands on the sort of services that they expected to get, both in terms of the knowledge, market knowledge of the potential clients, and also access to end users, lots of different skills that they expect to find in the inside the living labs. And then finally, and that's a message that I think cannot be repeated enough, that the communication must be really professional, so that there's a consistent message about what the living lab is doing, what the quattro helix setup is doing, and why. Very consistent and clear communication. And that's, as I said that already, but very precise objectives. So we've found that some of the living labs talk a lot about the structures and the processes, and they go a little bit bureaucratic in talking about all the many steps that they have developed. And the communication should be reduced to, we help companies, we involve end users, we make products, something very clear and simple. So also, if we want a more transnational collaboration, the Prova Health project has been in contact with a set of existing organizations and projects, and they're listed here, and they're all ready to collaborate. We should make a sort of Baltic Sea network structure. We're all in the same field, and it's all, for all of us, it's an infant sector, so we should collaborate to help each other get the products and the innovations to work cross-border. And then final message is to say that all levels of government should support these activities strategically, but also financially, and that goes together. When you have a strategy, usually there is also a financial plan behind it, but just important to keep in mind. And we've made some summaries in the project, which with the main messages for what the different policy levels should be doing to maintain and develop the quattro helix collaboration. And they're to be found online on the project webpage. And just to say thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Esther, for this very interesting presentation. And you can hear about Esther a bit later after all the presentations. And please, please, please send questions for the panel discussion, because all your questions will be answered during this day. And Esther will be one of the panelists in the upcoming discussion, which will be in about hour's time when we get all the presentations done. And the next speaker is Terje Paatso. We will hear an Estonian voice from North Estonia Medical Center, and she will be talking about main drivers of innovation and implementing the novel solutions in the hospital sector. So we will get a really good overview on hospitals, on the how to implement this kind of e-health, how to implement and how to make these innovations work for all our best interest. And Terje Paatso, you're very welcome to take the stage.
Hello, good morning. Small correction. Terje Peetso is my name. I don't know where it went wrong. So it's the right time for innovation, I would like to say. And it clearly demonstrates that the need for innovative solutions and innovative approaches may come at any time. And yeah, we can innovate at these times, but sometimes it's good if we have innovated beforehand. I have slightly renamed my presentation because I would really like to emphasize 2 points in this, in it. And it's about the importance of co-creation and trust. Co-creation was clearly also touched in the previous presentation about this quattro helix approach, because that means that we have to engage all those who are involved, who have to implement, who have the knowledge, and who can contribute in the development. I'm coming from the biggest hospital in Estonia, and we are working in almost all specialities in healthcare except really few, and that is often the reason for the innovative approaches in terms of achieving this holistic view on the patient, to guarantee the patient's smooth pathway, to engage all specialists at the right time for the right purpose, for the right outcome. And that clearly demonstrates the need for modern approaches. I want to emphasize here that although on this slide we can see that most of these are somehow digital, the examples given, that doesn't mean at all that innovation has to be digital only. I think that innovation can be in many ways, sometimes just changing the way of doing things may bring an innovative result, and the new thinking of how things can be done. Sometimes this innovative idea looks like this. It's very lonely because the idea is somewhere with somebody. The idea is trying partners here and there, but maybe not. They are not necessarily the right ones. And or it can be a patient, it can be a nurse, it can be a doctor, it can be a healthcare provider, it can be the payer, it can be anybody in the healthcare system who is with the need or with the problem. Or, as it is, sometimes it is a person with the solution and doesn't know where to go with it. So I tried on this slide, and actually I could basically focus on my presentation on this slide, to highlight the points that we have to consider, and what we have identified that all these aspects are equally important in the innovation process. Identify the need. Sometimes it is not that you have to identify the need. Sometimes you have to identify the problem. Because the problem itself can be much easier described in the healthcare sector than the need. We don't know what it is that we actually need, but we can describe a problem. For example, in our hospital, we are also thinking about the possibility to highlight in our website, for example, the problems that are in our hospital that are looking for an innovative solution. So that we will not write there what are the needs, what we are looking for, rather the problems that we have, so that those who are with the solutions can find us or can come and regularly visit. Maybe they can find the partners. Maybe some of the problems are very much linked. Maybe some of the solutions actually meet several needs. But it is important that we identify them in cooperation with those who are doing the everyday work in the hospital, and we speak about them. Then we have to have a good planning, because sometimes the good ideas, the identified needs, identified partners just don't end up anywhere because we have not foreseen how this is going to happen in everyday life, how we bring it to life. We are very busy in the hospital. that is very difficult to find the time for additional tasks. So planning is the key here. I would say that if you fail planning, you plan failing. Then it is not only the time. You, of course, also have to plan other resources, the money, people who should be involved, inside and outside, where to find the partners, where to find the knowledge. Sometimes the knowledge can be outside, it can be in another part of the world, it can be in European Union, but it can be somewhere else. So this type of planning and putting all the necessary items in one page and to see that that is where what exists, that is what we could use, we could test. Maybe sometimes this is absolutely not something that you have to develop from the scratch. Maybe that is already existing experience, maybe that is an evidence that demonstrates that it's good, it brings the effect, it saves money, it saves time, it brings the better health outcome. That is something that we have to also plan into this process, that we have already looked around, not to reinvent the wheel again. Then if this development phase, which can be shorter, can be longer, again, this is important that the end users, those who have identified the need, are involved in this process all the time. Testing, as soon as you have any prototype to test, is very valuable. To identify what the errors are at the beginning, so that the end product will be, so that we will not fail basically with the end product, but we already see what has to be done differently at the first stage. The development, of course, that is where we clearly need an outside expertise from our hospital point of view. And again, you don't always have to develop everything. You have to sometimes adjust to your needs. I think that is a practice that we are trying to use in our hospital, to look around to see the available tools and then to accommodate the tools to our needs, not to start from the ground floor for every solution. Testing, it is important, but now we are facing a difficulty here because testing in a hospital environment is something that may be quite complicated sometimes. Maybe it is, in one hand, a best living lab, but you have to be careful with this in order to ensure that the patient safety is granted. And also for that purpose, we cannot obviously apply the similar tools as for pharmaceuticals, randomized double-blind control. That is another way to do the testing. And I would also say that the testing here has to be slightly different, because in principle, if we run long tests with the different sites, then by the end we have the results, and when we have the publication of them and we get an approval from the authorities, the technology may be not up to date anymore. So the testing phase is important, but think about the number of patients you are using it for. Think about the size of the control group, and think the objectives of this testing period. That is important to agree already beforehand. And then, 2 steps, extremely important. Report what was noticed. Take the note of everything that happened during this testing period, and analyze the results. Because that is the basis for the next steps. And that is for the communication. And that is actually at this stage when we are looking for other similar solutions worldwide already existing, where we are looking for these results. If that can be demonstrated already beforehand, that we have achieved good results in terms of the saving the resource or improving the health outcome, that is something that we can use as the good argument for presenting this idea for addressing our problems already at the beginning of the planning stage. And then, most important, use the results. Somehow it has happened that in many wonderful projects, in fantastic ideas that have been tested and analyzed and developed perfectly well according to all plans and according to all kind of guidelines, they are not in use. They are somehow forgotten, or they are in use somewhere in a very limited place, but their effectiveness is not known to a broader audience. And that is something that we are really looking for. And I think that it is important that if you have made all this spending on your resource for all the previous stages, then not using it is just a waste of all previous 6 steps. And disseminate the results so that the others will learn from your good experience, will learn from the practice, also will learn from the failure, will learn from what didn't work. And while you have engaged in all these steps, all people involved, all people used in planning stage, used in identifying the needs, in the development, in testing, and then you will disseminate the results, then I think that we will have this innovation much more broadly in use. People do not necessarily have to go to the first stages and to involve all the stages, but they can already start using the results in their work, in their hospital environment, based on the work done before. There is one very important lesson that we have learned in our hospital during some of these innovative things that we have done. It is very good to have a good project leader. I would say that that is the especially valuable profession and a person nowadays in this innovation cycle. If you find a person who understands the healthcare environment, who understands all involved partners' needs, and can put it into the way and into the plan in a most effective way, I would say that that is the key for the success, as we have learned. Also, I fully agree that you have to be a long-term policy support, and not necessarily political support, but the policy support, because sometimes some things, even if we really want them, don't happen without the broader engagement of all partners in that field. And sometimes we need this type of political solutions, such as standardization, such as agreement between the different partners that that's the way we do these things, or we try in this area. And in addition to these agreed standards in digital field, we also need sometimes the financial support that comes outside from in addition to healthcare sector. And I think that is where this type of agreement between the sectors is really needed. I think here I wanted just to describe one of the projects that we are having as regards addressing the stroke patient pathway, but I will not get into details in it. It's very much similar to all Gantt charts that we have seen in the European-wide projects that demonstrates the importance of disseminating the actions in order to not have huge stuff focusing on this project at the first stage, and then it somehow will be dissolved, but to distribute the tasks in a way that you can distribute the resource and have the focus on different stages. You have to agree, of course, what comes first, what comes later, but then in the end you can have the report and analytics at the same time from all the steps that you have planned. And again, planning is also important not to forget in it. And again, I want to come back to what I said in the beginning, that is co-creation and creation of trust, knowing the results from the others and distributing the results of yours, are the key for the healthcare sector for sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terje, for this very interesting presentation. And also Terje will be involved in our panel discussion later today. So I do encourage you to send us questions, because all of them will be answered. You can do it by just writing your questions on Facebook on the comment section. And we will get them through to our speakers. It's very interesting to hear from these kind of hands-on experts on how they have actually implemented innovation into health, and especially in order to get this e-health really going, because obviously we all know that populations are getting older and resources are getting smaller. So innovation is really important for us. And the next presentation will be from United Nations Technology Innovation Labs program, which is called also Until. And we have brilliant speaker, Ahmed El Sayed, and he will talk about business opportunities in advancing the Sustainable Development Agenda, the way forward. So let's see, what is the way forward? Ahmed, please.
Thank you very much, and good morning. I know it's quite a long title for the session, but I'll make sure that it's quite clear during the presentation, and it will be quite brief. So my name is Ahmed El Sayed, and I represent the United Nations Technology Innovation Lab. I'm based in Helsinki in Finland, and what we do is that we try to work with different partners towards advancing technology innovations for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. The different themes of this lab are health, education, circular economy, and peace and security, and I lead the theme on health. So I'll start. So I'm here to talk a bit more about the business opportunities in advancing the Sustainable Development Agenda. The distinguished speakers that have spoke before I did highlighted a lot the importance of innovation, and I would like to take this a step further and say that innovation and technology innovations are not just important for having a better or enhancing the lifestyle of people or the quality of life, but are currently also important to achieve basic access to healthcare services for many. The current resources that are targeted towards addressing the gaps in access to health in many countries and regions are not enough. And without technology innovations, it will be very difficult to reach the universal health access targets and the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030 as planned. I also would like to highlight that given the current events, it's very evident to everyone how everywhere is connected. A disease that can be today endemic in one region can spread to become an epidemic or a pandemic now in the course of 2 months. So it is important to address the health needs for everyone the same. So a bit more about the United Nations Technology Innovation Labs. So this is our vision, a world where the benefits of digital innovations are harnessed for sustainable development to empower people and societies and are accessible to all. And the mission is to use digital innovation to accelerate the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we work to leverage the emerging technologies, and these technologies can come from universities, can come from private sector, can come from different types of actors, and we work also closely with governments and other UN agencies. We work to support and harness innovation and emerging technologies to create impact on our most pressing development challenges. These are the objectives. So we work to create a portfolio of projects. We work on co-creation, designing of innovations, piloting and testing some of these innovations and projects in different areas. And we try to do most of the piloting in less developed countries. We also work on developing the mechanisms to promote sustainability, transparency, goal delivery, and achievement. So basically, we have found that working hand in hand with the private sector is very rewarding, but we need to further develop a model where we work with the private sector as a partner in development and not just as a supplier. And I think that's very important, and it has been voiced more than once by senior UN officials that the resources available only for development assistance are not enough, and without a clear and transparent partnership with the private sector, it is unlikely that the world will be able to achieve the Sustainable Development Agenda. We also work to adopt and develop partnership models to support the agility and responsiveness and the SDG delivery. So what is the value proposition? What does the UN Technology Innovation Lab provide? So we bring needs and development challenges to those who can provide solutions. We're based in Finland. There are very few development challenges in Finland. However, there are a lot of solutions. But we have access to many countries where the challenges are still quite at large. And this is where we try to connect between solution providers and those who have the challenges. We also try to connect the very innovative ecosystem in Finland and in the Nordic and Baltic regions. And we think this is important because many of the innovators in this region are, they have very advanced ideas, but whether these ideas could be working in other contexts or countries is something that is usually a challenge. And we work closely with these innovators in an attempt to contextualize their innovations to be able to work in other countries. Of course, this is our work is an ICT for development, so we do work on tech innovations. However, we have the development hat, and we try to match between these two worlds. And we align with the SDGs, and we're happy to continue to create partnerships with different stakeholders. So, in more tangible terms, what kind of offering do we offer for the different types of stakeholders? So if you are an inventor, we provide you with an opportunity to potentially pilot this innovation of yours in a new opportunity, in a new market, in a new country, and see what needs to be customized, what needs to be tailored to be able to actually work in different contexts. We do that, of course, with the most important transparent and sustainable and open source, open access to data principles in mind. We don't want to create monopoly. We want to enhance collaboration between the different stakeholders and to promote digital cooperation. For the transformers are larger organizations or governments who wish to transform through innovations. We basically connect them with scalable SDG solutions. For the financiers or the donors, we give them opportunity to participate in impact projects. And for the brokers, and we see ourselves as also a broker, we work together to strengthen our networks. So the strategy is to work through three main ways: either co-creation with the company or startup or any entity that would like to develop an innovation, and then through challenges. Sometimes we have challenges on specific issues, and then through our network and partners as well. This is how we identify projects. I've mentioned here the themes, but then I want to highlight a bit what we focus on under the health theme. Health is a very broad issue, and we continue to see health as a very dynamic field for tech innovations. So we try to prioritize a few areas within health, including maternal and child health, SRHR, sexual and reproductive health, health data management, hygiene and safe access to water, air pollution, innovative diagnostics, and emerging global health priorities. And we've added the emerging global health priorities few months ago, actually, before we have the current pandemic crisis. And this is very important to us to keep an open door for addressing in a fast and quick and agile way potential issues and potential emerging priorities. Because as we see, we tend to have quite a few of these dangers emerging. And then the types of interventions, either working with the clients, with the health system provider, or the health data systems. And finally, I would like to say that in our lab, we do not see the themes apart from each other or working in isolation. We like to see that they are interconnected. So we're trying to also enhance co-creation as much as possible between the different themes, so between health, education, circular economy, and peace and security. And we try to look into opportunities where we can actually cover more than one theme. Because the essence of the Sustainable Development Agenda, and I'm focusing here on the word agenda and not goals, is basically that you cannot achieve one without the other. So it's very unlikely if we focus all our efforts on achieving one area and within the Sustainable Development Agenda that the other will be achieved as well. So it needs to be more comprehensive and interconnected, and this is something that we would like to invest in further. Before I conclude, I would like to thank the organizers today for their effort and for being so agile and responsive in managing the recent events and in making this happen even through this online virtual way. And I look forward to the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. And he also will be answering your questions once you post them on our Facebook page. Next, we will hear about open innovation ecosystem combining the public sector, academic world, business life, and end users. And the next speaker will come from Finland. He's Aki Grön from Kuopio Health. But I just would like to encourage you to send questions because we will have a panel discussion in about 20 minutes' time, and it will be with the presenters today, and we would really like you to forward the questions so that we would get you involved as well, because this is a very important and very interesting theme, which will touch every one of us, at least in the future. So just make this innovation into real life at some stage, hopefully sooner than later. And we won't have any technical problems, no worries, but we will get the presentation. And soon we'll start with Aki. But the panel discussion will be in about 20 minutes after the last presentation. So please send your questions in on the Facebook. Aki Grön.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for the organizer for giving me the opportunity to come over here to tell a little about from the Kuopio itself, and then Kuopio Health ecosystem, what kind of strengths we have in there, and what kind of cooperative opportunities we can offer to you. And I will end my presentation, tell a little bit about the Kuopio cooperative itself, what kind of entity we are, and what is our role in ecosystem. So in Kuopio, city of Kuopio, there are several business ecosystems, and definitely health is one of them, and probably the most strongest one. So the city of Kuopio is the 9th biggest city in Finland. It's something like 400 kilometers up north from Helsinki. We have 2 universities there, and so that there are quite many students there, 20,000. And we have 7,000 companies, and roughly 200 are doing export. We have a very challenging investment plans in coming years, 4 billion euros. And most of it is coming from the private sector, and many of those investments are concerning health sector. And we can say that we have a very unique healthcare industrial-driven ecosystem in Kuopio. We have more than 1,000 companies located there, and we have a university hospital, so we have many medical professionals there, more than 5,000. Neuroscience is very top knowledge area there, so that Neurocenter Finland headquarters is located in Kuopio. And we have 3 strong areas in Kuopio, and we are very valuable partner for pharmaceutical development there. And we have also big pharma companies presented there, and they are doing cooperation with SMEs and of course the university and the university hospitals. And actually this is one of our members' slide, KCD, and as you can see, we provide full path from in drug development, in starting from the applied research at the university. Then KCD or other companies like Medfiles can do the transnational research and shift into manufacturing for the company called Finvector and so on. We provide full path from the research to actual clinical testing. We have a very fast growing medtech sector there, and we have also big brands there doing cooperation with the university and also with the startups. And actually we have quite many research projects in pipeline to become in business pretty soon in near future. And those logos are just example of companies which are located in Kuopio. There are much more, but those are only examples. And we have quite a good clinical clinical testing facilities in Kuopio, which are supporting the pharmaceutical and medtech development. We have over 800 hospital beds there, and like I mentioned, over 5,000 medical professionals which can support your developing in Kuopio area. And the most hottest topic at the moment is the data, health data. And in Kuopio we have in our health lake, data lake, health data record from more than 500,000 Finnish inhabitants. So that what is unique in Kuopio data lake that you actually can combine or you don't have access only to the special healthcare data, but you can also combine the basic care and the social care data in that data lake. And because the secondary law just approved in Finland, so that this data is also available for innovation and commercialization purposes. And actually we have very big pharma companies now having their framework on frame project plans with the university and university hospitals, and they are investigating how they can utilize this data for their product development. And also the food is very much involved our well-being and health. And also in Kuopio we have a very top-level clinical nutrition research there and companies, and we are working in a new food solutions and healthier food products there. I have now a couple of slides about the Neurocenter because its headquarters is located in Kuopio, and this is very relevant today. And because this 1/3 of disease burden is caused by the brain diseases, and the cost is 2 times more than the burden cost or total cost of cancer and cardiovascular diseases. And this concerns quite many of us, every 3rd man and every 2nd woman. And if we are talking about the numbers, the annual cost, total cost of brain diseases in Finland is 9 billion euros. And I don't know what is figure in Estonia, I believe it's something like 4 or 5 billion. And in European level, it's used 800 billion annually. So Finnish neurosciences R&D is very top rated internationally. And one reason there is that the Finnish are very voluntary participants as a sample donors and also in clinical trials. And that's one reason in that success story. But also we have very many PhD level researchers there, and we have real world data coming from the 1960s stored in different health registers. And our social security number give quite nice access to that data there, so that it's very nice. And like I mentioned, in Finland we have 10 biobanks, but in Kuopio we have 1, and there are several million samples stored there. And Neurocenter, they have, of course, internal clients, universities, researchers, public research center, but what is expanding really enormously in recently, this kind of pharmaceutical companies, health tech industry, startups, and so on are very much interested to doing cooperation with the Neurocenter and be the client there. And we have a very strong imaging infrastructure or platform which is supporting the pharmaceutical and medtech industry development there. We have many units from the universities and the Kuopio University Hospital, but also from private sector, located very near to each other. We have a Charles Liver imaging facilities there and everything. And in these slides, you can all see the different kind of services which are related in your development. It starts with the cell and tissue investigation and support your preclinical and also clinical testing phases there. Yesterday we heard a lot about speaks about living labs. We also have Kuopio Living Lab. It's a joint project with the University Hospital, City of Kuopio, and the University of Applied Sciences. And their services are pretty usual living lab services, expert evaluation. They organize workshops. They do usability testing, feasibility assessment, and so on. And it's pretty easy to get your product to be tested in this living lab environment. Just fill the one form there, and within 1 week you get the contact there, and some kind of initial feedback feasibility check is done already there. And at the moment, this is, I think, in this year it's about the free of charge for everyone, but I'm not sure about the next coming years because the project is ending this year. But anyway, it's for use anyhow. And this metro chart is telling that there are many kind of things which are supporting startups, not only startup, but also the other companies' development and growth in Kuopio area. There are different kind of lines, there are support lines, different kind of organizations are supporting your businesses, there are different organizations giving you funding, and so on. And there are hospital line, you can see what kind of different kind of units you can find inside the hospital and what kind of things you can do cooperation with those units. And there is one dot there and or one hub where these lines are connected, and it's Kuopio Health Cooperative, which I'm presenting over here. This Kuopio Health Cooperative was established April 2019. I started there as September as the first CEO. At the moment, we have roughly 25 company members together with the founding members, these public organizations there. And our role is to be a facilitator there, bringing this public sector, academic work, business life, and end user around the same table and start to figuring out how can we make bigger projects or cooperation and create new solutions. We promote also this well-being and strength in Kuopio area, and we act as a single contact point. If you are interested in what kind of things we are doing in Kuopio, just contact me and I'll let you know. And we, of course, we provide excellent training and this kind of operation environment together with our members. And my and my colleagues' network is always open for you if you want to have a cooperation with us. Last year we had our strategy ready. This was very important because we are a very thin organization. We only 2 people. We cannot do everything. But now we have a clear strategy, and we are now have 4 cornerstones. And first of all is the main thing at the moment is building this ecosystem and building ecosystem services and rules for networking and cooperation there. We also want to lower the burden to access to infrastructure of the, let's say, university hospital or university there, and create bigger projects there. We also, our activities, training know-how, want to tell the research organizations what kind of things are needed in the private sector, and of course we have to be very efficient in this communication. And last, there are logos, almost all of the members now, which are part of the Kuopio Health cooperative, and I'm finishing over here, so thank you very much, and let's start cooperation with you.
Thank you so much, Aki Grön. And now we will have the panel discussion. So please, Terje Peetso, Esther, Ahmed, please join me, and also Aki. Let's sit down comfortably on this beautiful setting. Welcome. Yes, two on this side and two on this side. So let's start by thanking you all for these very interesting and thorough presentations. It was very interesting. But now I'd like to hear about your personal experiences, on your failures, on your successes. Please, Esther, would you care to elaborate? How has it been in Denmark? What do you consider your own personal success stories on implementing innovation into people's health?
Well, I think from a public authority perspective, we have 5 regions who run all the hospitals, and each of those regions have run their own small pilots, and now they're being scaled. So we actually, it's processes are slow, and you need a lot of people on board, but we are actually moving, and we have now concepts such as e-hospital, a lot more home monitoring, a lot more virtual treatment, a lot more mobility, people being not hospitalized for anything, being treated closer to their homes in more local settings. The sort of distinction between emergency care or hospital need, or need for hospital care, and need for surveillance is becoming much more clear. So we're really moving ahead. We're really hospitalizing or moving into e-care in many ways, slowly but surely. So I think that is a good small country, small market, so we can actually do things.
Has it been difficult to kind of change people's attitudes? You talked about communication and transparency. So what has been like the most challenging part of that? Have you seen like differences between people of different ages, or what kind of differences have you spotted?
Well, I think there's a lot of systemic differences also, because the systems are set up in their own logic. So the systems are set up with the hospitals with their own budgets and their own KPIs and their own, so they are actually paid according to the number of patients, a number of hip operations and quantities. And then on the other hand, we have the municipalities who run the home care and care for all the really fragile, and they have their own KPIs and their own budgets and their own things. And then we have the medical doctors who operate on their own systems also, and the sort of objectives, also 3 silos, are just not coordinated. So the whole issue is how to put the patient in the center and the interests of the patients, and that is now happening on a small scale still, and trying to have the systems orbit around the patient instead of having the patient run to all these doors and trying to navigate in the system. So it's moving slowly. There's a lot of resistance, and of course this is new, and we are all trained to think in a certain way. But it's, I think I'm optimistic, but it's moving slowly.
Would you like to have some authorities who would like say you should do it like this or that, or is it clear who's like taking responsibility of this whole chain of services and hospitals?
Well, no, it's not clear at all, and we are actually currently still, after many years, discussing a new health system reform, and there's a lot of views. So yeah, some more. I guess the word holistic is sort of used word, but some more sort of whole system thinking, and really thinking from the perspective of the user, of the patient. That would be very, very useful, and I think we need yes, somebody to think that way and help the systems think that way. But that also entails economic reforms. They have to be set up in a different way, and it's massive organizational structures that needs to be changed.
Well, that sounds like challenges in all the countries with some sort of systems and bureaucracy. But let's go to Ahmed El Sayed. You are working in Finland, but working for United Nations, and you are there, like, welcoming the innovations. What kind of new projects have you had that you kind of think that, yes, now we're getting this on the way?
Thank you. Well, first, the ecosystem in Finland and this region is very rich. The innovations are quite many, and the willingness of the companies and universities to actually work with the United Nations to advance on sustainable development is very impressive, to be honest. The global or the social impact mindset, to be specific, is something I think that is very unique for this region. And I think other regions and countries might be catching up on this. It has been quite hectic since I arrived because apart from July, where everything is off in Finland, the other months it's been quite hectic because a lot of companies and universities have done what we call agreements with us to either co-create a specific innovation or to work together on organizing a specific event where innovations can be presented and can be linked to certain challenges. We have a few pipeline projects. I would say one project to advance maternal, newborn and child health is in the pipeline, utilizing AI and utilizing also the Finnish maternity care guidelines, which are quite famous globally. The novella concept is also one of the things that we are working on now, working also to address antibiotic resistance in the environment and creating and establishing a database, a global one for alerting towards the existence of these bacteria in some countries is something that we are working on. There are quite a few other pipeline projects addressing concepts relating to a mobile digital hospital, for example, in some countries where people cannot access healthcare due to distance or traffic or other issues. We are trying to look for scalable solutions, but we're trying also to build a model that is good for business, because if the company basically gives us a solution that is very interesting for us and we help them pilot it in a country, we don't want them also ending the project by the end of our pilot. So we are working with the companies to develop through open source, open data concepts, solutions that can actually have a viable business model, which I think is the biggest challenge, because for many, their business model is based on the IP of their digital solution, and we cannot promote as the United Nations such a project. So we need to look more into how data can be utilized for creating revenue, for supporting some models, and other models that include software as a service or being supported through government support or UN agency support. So it's been quite busy, I can say, and also with current events, there are quite a few ideas coming in, and everyone seems to be willing and interested in working on different topics. Yeah.
So what will be the logic of making money, getting the innovation into health system and getting this kind of greater good for us all? You can actually both comment on this.
Well, introducing innovations into the health system is making it more efficient. and is actually saving money for the health system. And we've seen many models for this. If we manage to give people more awareness, they will not need to go to the hospital more often. You will have less burden on the health system. So innovations in the health system actually save countries a lot of money. Then, of course, some of the business models that are relying on data, of course, with respect to GDPR and privacy of personal data, you can actually create a lot of revenue from accessing data and improve the quality of services. So in a way, it's a circle where everybody can be a winner. However, it's not for everyone, I must say. Like, not all companies think like that. If a company is under the pressure of a VC, a venture capital that has loaned them money and require a high return on investment in a quick gain, I would say, it may not be for them to work on a social impact project. It might work, but it may not work for them. So it's a bit, I would say, a new concept that is being promoted. But then I think with time, more and more companies and more research institutions and others are seeing the benefits in working in sustainable development. And as I've mentioned in my presentation, it's not about introducing something for good for others, because if you improve the health system for others, it actually can affect us here now, because we can see now the example, so we don't need to get too much into that. Thank you.
I can add to that we are working in Denmark on value-based care projects that proves the results. So we actually do have economic figures showing that it's worth it, and to use more technology and more home care or home-based care. So we do have those models, but the systems are still not set up in the economic and logic. But we're moving that way, and I think we should do more to showcase those projects and share them, because they actually work. Value-based care works.
Thank you. Tere Peetsi.
Yes, I just would like to come in here. Yes. I think it sounds very good to say that it saves money in healthcare sector. I have said it 7 years in my previous job. It's not so easy, because first you have to do an investment. And how this investment will bring back to you, you have some indirect savings that you cannot even measure. And then you have some direct savings that you can measure, but in 5 years. So that is a tricky thing for the healthcare providers to find the convincing arguments. Some things just have to happen. For example, electronic health record, you have to have up to date, because otherwise your data analytics, and you can't use them in a way as the healthcare records are set currently. And our hospital is going to invest into this. I think that investment for things such as electronic prescription nationwide is a very good investment, because that is, again, there is a lot of these indirect savings. For example, the errors, the misunderstanding of the handwriting, or the automatic check of the dose and age, for example, that you can apply, or the all kind of contradictions between different prescriptions that are prescribed at the same time and that don't work together. These kind of things you can count. But there is also a lot of this type of savings, such as saving the time to see a doctor, etc. For example, if you take using the telemedicine, and I'm so happy that our health insurance fund is now looking into these possibilities. But again, if you want to do the telemonitoring of a patient, you have to invest into this tool that is going to do this telemonitoring. You have to invest in the hospital for a system that is going to monitor this, record somewhere, and analyze it. And how to say that the saving is the better health outcome of a patient, it's not very easy. It's a long run. I remember in the European Commission there were several projects. It was even funded from this competitiveness and innovation program, so it's really a long time ago. But the projects that ran for 3 years, they were not able to demonstrate saving because the investment was too high, so that you can demonstrate the difference in the health outcome in this short period. So I think that this argument, when you go to the healthcare provider, to demonstrate it with the facts, I remember the calculations about the effectiveness of electronic health record. That you really have to look into longer period and to consider the full spectrum of things and how this cooperation works with other things. And that's why I highlighted this importance of standards, that we are using the same standards so we can link things and we have this modular approach and benefit from more than one thing only.
So now my argument would be, it's easy for Estonia to say, because it's a small country and you have these brilliant digital innovations and you can just go forward. But what is in your point of view the best story or best success that you have been involved in hospital environment?
Actually, I was not involved in it. But I am happy to share it because it is in my hospital, because it started before I joined the team. There are in intensive care units, there are some procedures for nurses which are really complex and where you have to follow the step-by-step approach. You can't do the thing if you haven't done that one. And even these nurses who are really experienced and they think they do it by heart, they may, because they do it so often, they may miss some of them. But in particular for the young nurses who just start, the guidance is needed. The guidance for these procedures, of course, needs another person. And that means that two people are doing the procedure, which requires one. So what we did together with the help of the Connected Health Cluster actually was developing a tool for the online guidance. You have it in a tool in your telephone using their phones, and starting the procedure, you will get the guidance that now you do this. Done, you press the button, next one. So that none of these steps, it's like a checklist, but electronic. And doesn't interfere you for standing somebody and ticking the boxes, but you do it electronically with this kind of digital guidance, somebody in your ear to check that all the steps are done. And I think that it's a perfect learning tool, but it's the good reminding tool as well. And that is something that is not expensive. Also, it has its maintenance cost. And that is also something on these things that we should not forget, that if you apply it, you have to consider maintenance costs. You have to update it from time to time, because in these procedures, things change. And you should not rely on something which is already, maybe in this world, it's 2 years maybe old. So, but it has demonstrated its effect in our intensive care units, and I'm very proud of it. And also, we are now working on some projects that I think should be successful. One is our project for the stroke patients, where we are using 2 digital tools in this full spectrum. We have altogether 7 different areas of work, but 2 of them are using digital tools. And altogether, that is a pretty innovative approach for this patient pathway. We are looking into similar pathways of cancer patients to introduce the tools that would help the patient. Because I would say that the most important thing is that the healthcare is the patient-oriented. The patient needs are the ones that drive this innovation. And all that supports it.
Thank you, Terje. And we will continue with Aki soon. But first, we will hear from European Commission. So we will have... first with Aki. Okay. Not that shy Finnish man. So please, you already told us in your presentation about the brain disease care in Finland and about how there might be a very good way of improving with this innovation the people's health. Could you even talk about that more? So what do you think would be like the best way to go forward from your point of view?
let's see, because I'm quite new in this area, but started in September. But what I have been finding out that we have a very top researchers in Finland, and we have a very good knowledge about what is causing this kind of diseases, and we have this data and records there, so that it gives very good platform to these drug companies to make a drug development there, pharmaceutical development there, and run the clinical trials. And it has been said that the data is today's oil, but it's not true, because it's increasing all the time. So that the more we get the samples there, more we get the data. When we are adding that there for personal data also, not only the this special healthcare data or basic healthcare data, but also our personal data, what kind of things we are buying from the grocery shops and things like that. We get the full picture, and then we understand better what causes those kind of brain diseases or diseases, and what kind of things we should do there.
But people are, of course, worried about the patient's health and security. And when we talk about innovation, it needs to be tested. So could we have a round on your experiences, on your opinions on how to make this kind of wonderful innovation and technology into everyday life without endangering the health of patients? Let's start with.
Of course, health is patient's health is the most important thing, and also this kind of anonymous things, so that your personal that data which you are stored there cannot be directly connected to you when you are doing this kind of development there or commercialization. It should be somehow help the companies there, and of course this health of patient is always the most important thing, and it should be remembered when we are bringing new products into the market. So.
Well, I would say that you have to explain well the importance, how it works. You have to explain all the data protection rules and the cybersecurity things are in place, and nothing will happen or nobody will interfere or nobody will hack the data. And you also have to have the other options available. You can't say that from now onwards everybody will be digital. I think that you have to have both options. For those who are eager to take up the new solutions, that would be possible, but those who are not also can continue. In principle, people agree. In principle, people agree. I think that, for example, for these telemedicine consultations, I think if you really want to talk to a person vis-a-vis, you should have that possibility. But if you think that traveling is too much for you to go and see the doctor in order just to have this type of small discussion or sharing something that you can do over the internet, then I think that people would agree, because it saves their time as well.
Yes, this is about data, but what about like physical innovation?
I have a reply to that. So in the Prova Health project, we did a test exercise with 14 companies traveling to another country to do test in a foreign testing environment, and that went really well. The companies were happy, but we also learned, I think, all along the project and the process, that you need a solution that is quite developed before contacting the health system, and that's always. So you need co-creation, but then you need something that is already developed, the chicken and the egg, and I think that's the development processes. If you can have the doctors and the medical staff involved early, that guarantees success, because it's really it's a doctor's responsibility at the end. So they will not, or they should never test or do anything with patients that they don't believe in and that is not safe. So it really comes back also to the innovation processes, how we run these and how we finance them, and whether the doctors can have free time and all that. So it's really up in the testing the device at the end with the patients is up to that's medical responsibility.
I think for the physical innovations, there are very strict guidelines and rules for this, so I'm not going to delve much into that. But for the digital innovations, that is a space that is still missing some governance, I would say. A lot of the issues related to how AI can be utilized and whether AI would be trusted with different age groups. There are a lot of efforts now to provide these guidelines. Data security issues, can we make sure that there are no backdoors? This is also something that needs to be put into consideration before we go into rolling out or testing a solution with individuals. I believe that data privacy is key and is very important, and that individual rights to also have access to their own data is something that is quite important. I believe it was recently mentioned in the EU data strategy, the importance of the personalized access to personal information and the data security platform or the outlines for this. I think it's a topic that continues to grow. Data economy, as mentioned, is quite significant, billions a year. The EU not having a really large percentage of that is also quite an issue that has been discussed recently. Yeah, I think that we continue to prioritize ethical guidelines and the individual's rights as much as we can, and to put in place these kind of outlines and regulations to make sure that no violation of this takes place. Thank you.
Well, finally, let's have one more round, and quite short. I know it's not yet Christmas time, but if you had one wish about developing this innovation and or getting policymakers to understand what you need, what would be the wishes for, and to whom you would address it to? Who's the first? Would it be Terje?
Well, I would like to have our people higher health literacy level. I don't know whom to address it, to be honest. I think there is a lot of players for this. Digital health literacy as part of it, and that doesn't only involve patients, it also is about the healthcare professionals. With focus on this digital. But I think we can have this type of patient-centric healthcare only if we have health literate people. If we continue as we are now, that people are passive participants in this process, then we cannot recall, we can recall it whatever we want, but it will not be that. And for example, using this decision support or AI, I think that it's very important to tell people that it's not the decision making, it's the decision support that you will get. But in order to have this support, you have to have it for something. What are you supporting? So I have to have the knowledge in order to make this decision then in the end. Either it's for the patients, for the trivial things, or it's for the doctors, for more complex issues. But that is something that we need to do. We haven't even measured it in Estonia, what is the level of health literacy here. I think we should do it. So that we can apply all these new innovative things in the ground, which is much better prepared.
Yeah, I would like to see this kind of open dialogue between the authors, these kind of decision makers, with the experts, with the companies, and they will, if they have this kind of open discussions, what kind of things there should be done, and what are the rules there, it end up with something great. I hope so.
I think my key message will really be to ask the users and talk to the users, both in terms of hospital experience. What did you like it? What did you feel? How were you treated? How are you doing now? Does it work for you? And in the home care. So it's, and there's so many different methods. So it's really to reach out in the human way and say this is all about you and your needs, and we get a lot of information and also useful information back to help us innovate better and more and implement better. So user patient-centered systems, please.
Yes. My wish, I would give it to everybody who's seeing us, and I think it's related also to the current events. I think it is time to, from now, to look into how innovations can help us develop better our preparedness. for global health emergencies. I think that there is a lot of room there to make sure that we are better prepared, and we shouldn't wait until this boils down, because then we will have the short-term memory usually. So the time is now actually to invest more into the thinking of what is next and how can we prevent this from happening again. This is the first wish. And lastly, I would just like to end that for those who are working on innovations, digital innovations more specifically, and wishing to learn more and to work more in development, I would strongly advise them to refer to the principles of digital development, which give a good outline of the different elements that should be there in solutions that can work everywhere, and that would also make it more easier for us to work with them, hopefully, in the future. Thank you.
Thank you all for all the panelists, Esther Davidsen, Tere Peetso, Agi Grön, and Ahmed El Sayed. It's very interesting, and I'm sure that the discussion will continue. And now, next, we will hear online pre-recorded presentation by Ana Duerte from European Commission, and she will talk about open innovation leading the way in the transformation of healthcare.
Innovation, Unit E3 Health Innovations at the European Commission. So today I'll be speaking about open innovation and how it can lead to healthcare transformation. But more specifically, I will focus on open innovation initiatives that we have at EU level. Before the organization of the Health Tech Living Lab Summit for the invitation to speak at this event. And second, I would like to apologize for not being physically present due to the specific travel restrictions that we're facing at European institutions in the context of the novel coronavirus outbreak. So I will start by doing a small introduction of what open innovation can do for healthcare. Projects, we see that they can improve the delivery of healthcare across the EU. We see this through the pooling of efforts, sharing of findings and evidence and best practices, and then it can lead to development of common standards and even addressing specific health inequalities. We see that open innovation is increasingly present across the healthcare value chain. And then this is due to the integration of healthcare with other fields, such as big data and advanced materials. We also see that actually open innovation models are supporting into bringing digital solutions to the market. This because they enable a wide range of clinical validation and real-world testing in a different variety of contexts. So we have different contexts across different EU member states, and the fact that they can be tested across this context actually then enables easier market entry in specific contexts. So what are the open innovation resources made available at the European Commission? We have a wide variety of resources ranging from policy initiatives, funding schemes, and even support services. So this is a short summary. I'm going to refer a couple of these instruments, but please feel free to utilize these slides and click in each one of the links, because they lead you to the pages or where these instruments are described. So starting with the support of open innovation, we have the Better Regulations for Innovation-Driven Investment at the EU level, and this is a document that analyzes how regulation in the EU stimulates innovation. Then we have the innovation deals, and these are voluntary cooperation agreements between the EU, innovators, regional or local authorities. And they evaluate specifically EU rules or regulations to see if there are a barrier to innovation. Then we have innovation principle that makes sure that a policy is developed and that its impact on innovation is fully taken in account. And we have a policy support facility that actually supports countries in the implementation and evaluation of their specific innovation and research policies. On the funding for innovators, we have a bit of a mix. We have the European Innovation Council, that is a recent instrument that brings actually together funding schemes that were already in place. And there's even a wizard tool that can be used to understand what's the best funding scheme. And this supports early innovators into bringing their solutions closer to the market. And then we have the proof of concept grants with the European Research Council, and these support people that were already granted through the research in the European Research Council to have and explore the commercial potential of their work. Then we have different investment instruments, such as InnoFin, European Fund for Strategic Investments, the Venture Capital Fund to Funds program, and even the competitiveness of enterprises and SMEs. And these programs, basically, they support the access to financing. Overall, they're quite different between themselves, but overall, they help SMEs and other businesses to access finance and investment. And then we have innovation procurement schemes, and we'll talk about these ones a bit later. So I'll not specify at the moment. Then for support services for innovators, we have European Innovation Partnerships, and these are instruments that support addressing specific societal challenges. They also help in the modernization of sectors and markets. And they usually are launched with a specific context. Then we have the KICs, which are also partnerships between business, research center, and universities. We have the Innovation Radar that helps identify project innovations that have a big potential within our framework programs, such as Horizon 2020. We have the Seal of Excellence that actually, when a project or a proposal doesn't get funded, but got a positive evaluation, that then gets a seal, and then it's seen as a way of finding further funding. And then we have the Enterprise European Network that has 600 members, including national chambers of commerce and development agencies. So when we talk about open innovation in healthcare, we have specific instruments that they're easier to explain in this context, and they can help us understand how open innovation can indeed lead the way in healthcare innovation. So I'm going to explain each one of them in detail further. So we have innovation procurement, and in innovation procurement we have mainly two types of instruments, and these types are PCPs and PPIs. PCPs are pre-commercial procurement instruments. PPIs are public procurement of innovation instruments, and these they're in theory sequential, but it doesn't mean that because we had one we'll have the other, or that one cannot happen without the other. But the main idea is that if we want to develop something, so for example, I'm a buyer, I'm a hospital, I want to address a specific need that I have, then I need to procure for specific R&D services to tackle this need, and I'm going to request the market to develop this research. While in a PPI, the solution in theory is either already in the market or very close to the market, and the public sector acts as a first customer to this solution. These instruments are quite interesting because they are needs-based research and market opportunities, and ends up being that the public sector can innovate, and we support this instrument through financing. For the PCPs, we support up to 90%, and for the PPIs, we support up to 35% of the total budget of the actions. So this is a win-win situation for both public sector and innovators. For the public sector, we have the modernization of public services. So we are improving the quality and efficiency of public services at the same time that we're tackling societal challenges with innovative solutions. It's also a way to get better value for money. So this including sharing the cost and exchange procurement experiences between the different procurers across Europe. It's also a smart use of the procurement budget because it removes the supplier lock-in and obtains more open, standardized, and better value for money solutions. It also supports the economic growth and creation of jobs in Europe. This because specifically in PCPs, suppliers can be required to do the majority of the research and development work in Europe. For innovators, in the other side, we have innovation driven from customer needs, helping shortening the time to market for innovative solutions. We also have the public pursuit that can open markets or sales opportunities for innovative companies in Europe, and specifically SMEs and startups. And also, these instruments help innovative businesses in Europe to scale up and finally go to market. So the first customer reference from the public sector usually helps attracting investors. So in order to make this a bit more tangible, I'm going to give you an example. This example is Talea and Talea 2, actually, two projects, a PCP then followed by a PPI. So pre-commercial procurement followed by public procurement of innovation. And what happened in Talea 1, at your left, is that they procured the research and development, test and deployed. This lasted for 4 years. So they started with 5 suppliers in phase 1. And then in phase 3, they end up with 3 suppliers. Okay, so between Talea 1 and Talea 2, there was the certification of solutions, scaling up of the development, the SMEs grew their businesses, and also there was an enlarged buyers group. So we know that by the end of Talea 1, we got 3 suppliers, which is good because then the market has a wide range of options that address the needs of the procurers. And then in Talea 2, we're going to procure and wider the deployment of these certified systems. So you have a list of the procurers here. And what was intended with this project was that they would develop an interoperable platform for teledetection and telecare of ICU patients. So they wish to have a significantly improved risk detection, early diagnosis and higher efficiency of the ICU, and also enable a reduction of sepsis mortality by 25%, and also reducing the length of hospital stay between 20 and 50%. This is a very good example because from the beginning of the research to the deploy of the systems, it took 1.5 years. There were 3 systems, as I refer, that got until the end of the phase and got certified. And these systems are they were developed by Dendrite Clinical Systems, New Compliance, and Philips, and they all met the procurer's requirements. So it's not because a product or a company doesn't reach the end of the PCP that their product doesn't go to the market. If they even only stay at phase 1, it might be that they still wish to pursue the development of the product and then take the product to the market in any case. So these systems were deployed, the prototypes, already in 2016, and they've been used since then. So regarding innovation procurement, which has a lot of potential to bring the innovative solutions to the real settings based on the needs of the procurers, we have currently 3 calls. And these 3 calls, they all have their digital angle, although only the last one actually mentions digital health. But the first one is a pre-commercial procurement for integrated care solutions. The second one is a public procurement of innovation for diagnostics for infectious diseases. And the third one is a PCP for digital health and care solutions. I also put here the event that we had last year in October, where we have presentations and frequently asked questions that can give more detail about the instruments. You can find information from what's the minimum number of procurers that can participate, etc. So there's some help in case you wish to apply. We also have another instrument that is called implementation research. Implementation research is the scientific study of methods to promote the uptake of research findings, and it can be in clinical, organizational, or policy contexts. Usually it helps us understand in real-world settings what are the promoters, the facilitators, and the barriers to implementing a specific solution. And as an example, this call that I mentioned here is already closed, but is an example of research call for the implementation of digital solutions. And the products are not yet finally evaluated, so we'll still have to come some projects regarding this call. But the projects are expected to develop methods and strategy for the implementation of these solutions, understand organizational, social, and behavioral changes required to bring the digital solutions to practice, and also scale up and transfer of innovative solutions allied with more responsive health services. On the other side, we have innovation actions. So this focus more on the prototyping, testing, and demonstrating of specific solutions. And I also have an example, which is Smart Bear, and this is a project that we funded in September 2019, which focus on smart big data platform to offer evidence-based, personalized support for healthy and independent living at home. So the purpose of the project is to continuous and objective monitoring the intervention that are being taken to place in order to optimize disease and associated risks, while also measuring improvements of the quality of life. So this is an example of a digital solution applied and being now developed and piloted in this context. Then we also have the twinnings, where we couple different regions in this context in order to support them in the uptake of digital solutions. And we have currently a call for twinnings, and this is open since February 26, and it's open until 4th of May. So we intend to fund more than 45 twinnings. On the 8th of April, there's also a webinar, and in order to register, if you have more questions about this twinnings, you can register in the link that is provided in the presentation. Then we have the European Innovation Council, the IC. The IC funds startups, spin-offs, SMEs through grants, but also through investment in the form of equity. It also provides coaching and networking activities for their applicants. An example of a health digital project is the world's first digital data fingerprint for human blood samples. And this is from a company called Smart for Diagnostics GmbH in Germany. And this is an example of a project that can be funded through investment of the EIC fund. Then we have partnerships. I'm not sure if you're familiar with these partnerships. They're quite big partnerships that we have currently in our Horizon 2020 program. We have the IMI, which is the Innovative Medicines Initiative. It's a joint undertaking that dedicates to develop accessible innovative medicines in the areas of unmet medical needs. And then we have also another joint undertaking, which is Excel, and it's more on the digital electronic components, but they also have a strand dealing with health. And in this, they are looking at the healthcare moving from centralized symptomatic treatment towards more preventive, predictive, and participatory care. We have 3 other partnerships that deal with the aspects of aging. JPI More is Better Lives, which has the work to foster collaboration and coordination of research and development in Europe, specific on the programming areas of the JPI. And then we have the European Innovation Partnership on Active and Healthy Aging, which is a communication and information hub for different actors involved, and usually has a big participation from regions. And then we have the AAL program, which is a funding of innovation that intends to keep elderly connected and active. And this is actually a program between industry, public sector, and the Commission. So member states, industry, and the Commission. While, for example, IMI is between industry and the Commission. Then just very shortly on Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe is not yet a program because there are still negotiations happening within the European Parliament, but we have a specific orientations paper that explains what is intended with this program. And you have the different areas of health that we're looking to address. So we have the staying healthy in a rapidly changing society, living and working in a health promoting environment, related with the European Green Deal as well, tackling diseases and reducing disease burden, ensuring access to sustainable and high quality healthcare, which also has a very strong digital component, unlocking the full potential of new tools, technologies, and digital solutions for a healthy society, which also has a very strong digital component, and then maintaining a sustainable and globally competitive health-related industry. In this orientations paper, we also propose several partnerships, amongst which the most relevant might be the 3 following ones that are presented in this slide. The Innovative Health Initiative. So this is sort of a successor of the Innovative Medicines Initiative, but now instead of being just the pharmaceutical aspect, it's also gathering other industries, namely the medtech and diagnostics industry. While the European Partnership on Transformation of Health and Care Systems, this is a completely new partnership that is also building on the findings of other partnerships, and it's intended to address the issues of health and care systems through open innovation, research, and collaboration between the different member states. And then we have the European Partnership on Personalized Medicine, that is more or less the same modus operandi than the previous one, and it's dedicated to specifically personalized medicine. Then finally, I'd just like to do a small introduction to the digital innovation hubs in Digital Europe, also on the Future program. And these are an innovation in itself, because they wish to bring some issues regarding digital innovations together and address them in a one-stop shop. And these are: how do we test before invest? So for high-performance computing, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, blockchain in public administration, how to facilitate procurement with smaller governmental technology suppliers, and also giving advice on digital by default. Then we have skills and training, so raising awareness regarding the potential of the different technologies we talked about before, and also the Connecting Europe facility, and the specific digital single infrastructure. Then we have also the training of the public administration in these aspects. We also wish to support the find of investments, support the public administrations on how to find specific investment for example, innovation procurement, as we were discussing before, and also innovation ecosystem and networking. So how we can replicate locally the digital public services that were developed with the digital innovation hubs, and also offering connecting your facility to SMEs, liaising with the different digital innovation hubs. So if you wish to stay updated regarding the different developments, please connect to our social media, and I'll be happy to receive any questions through the organization if you have some after this presentation. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.
So let's continue this Health Tech Living Lab Summit webinar here on Uncomfortable Sofas. And I have a real-life innovator here with me. Welcome, Janne Pitkänen, Adusso company.
Thank you.
So you have developed with your company a very interesting electronic health record system that has actually gone into work already. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, actually, it's all about when those kind of large-scale electronic health record systems are nowadays deployed in the whole Nordics, basically. And the system renovations are like huge, and those used to be quite challenging. On the other hand, there are big promises to improve in the Nordic quite good healthcare system even further. But on the other hand, it takes some time to get the clinicians to tune in with the system and also to fix the initial flaws with the system. And we can help on that.
And you said that it's like a black box, this product that you have.
Yeah, it's kind of black box, which used to be an airplane, but this is for our healthcare system and our health informatics system. And I see our healthcare system as mission critical as commercial aviation is, right?
So how does this product work?
Okay, it's used in a way that whenever like a doctor is doing an e-prescription, for example, on an EHR system, electronic health record system, and if there is some problem of doing that, he or she can just mark up the moment by clicking a button and leaving a short comment. It's not needed to use the medical doctor's time to figure out what the problem is, but the user support staff and the system analysts can understand and figure out how to improve and further optimize the system.
What are the biggest challenges of the system or this kind of health record systems at the moment that we are experiencing?
Oh, actually, the initial and the biggest challenge right now is the declining or the productivity dip when deploying a new system. So when a sizable hospital region is deploying a new system, it can lose even 6% of their productivity for the first half year upon deployment.
So, and this will produce or improve that?
Yeah, we can optimize the system quicker to get the productivity up and reasonable faster. So if you think of being like member of the hospital management team, you run usually a billion scale revenue and you have thousands of hospital staff members. So that 6% would mean for each and every staff member to do almost half an hour extra work for each working shift to manage with that productivity drop. So it's quite drastic, and especially during these times when we try to preserve any hospital capacity in our healthcare system, what we can, it's becoming even more important.
This system is already working somewhere. You said that in Denmark?
In Denmark, we run a pilot in the region Sjælland, And that was meant to be a tryout to take our solution beyond the Finnish market. And in Finland, we have been in cooperation with the largest EHR deployments already.
What was the biggest challenge of getting hospitals to understand that your innovation was good?
Yeah, that's a good question. And actually, it usually just takes time, some grit. It's not like you just ask, okay, would this be a good idea? It's getting in touch with relevant persons, finding out them, and actually this Prova Health project was really helpful on this. Because before I have been a bit hesitant to participate in this kind of, or putting a product into a living lab context, because I rather contact directly the people who are running the operations. But actually then I have noticed, because it usually takes so much time, this can be the step in between, so in a way to the actual use, and it really helps on that.
So thank you so much for sharing his experiences, Janne from Adelsa Company. And now we will have a Skype presentation by Bent Hakon Lauritsen of Nordic Proof, and he will talk about cross-border collaboration for innovation.
Hello, can you hear me? I just need a confirmation. So I will try to put into presentation mode and I see how it works, and please send me a message in the Skype if it's a problem. Okay. Could you just take a thumbs up so that I know from the studio? Good to hear. So this is new to all of us, I think, at least for today morning, know that we should have this full conference online. But hello to all of you. My name is Bent Hakon Lauritsen. I'm coordinator of an initiative called Nordic Proof that I would like to talk more about to all of you. My main topic for this speech would be the cross-border collaboration for innovation. And why to talk about cross-border collaboration? I think it's two dimensions. The one is the health tech industry developing new products, and those products should be focusing internationally. I think that's really crucial for all startup and SMEs in the healthcare sector to focus internationally, and that's what we're trying to support with the concept of Nordic Proof. The other dimension, of course, is the need for the health institutions to collaborate with the cross-border to establish more effective and better healthcare services. So the full initiative of Nordic Proof is actually both dimensions, helping the hospitals and the healthcare providers to work together to look for, scout for, and as well as integrate new effective solutions into the healthcare service. So what's the problem of today? I think at least I listed these 5 topics that could be discussed. The SMEs and startups are entrepreneurs driven and does not fully understand the needs and does not fully comply with the market requirements. We see a lot of entrepreneurs with a great idea, but it's not really anchored into the real needs in the hospitals and the healthcare institutions. That's, I think, the first topic that should be addressed when it's a collaborative project with the industry and healthcare. The second one is, I think for SMEs, a lot of times it's really difficult for them to find the right personnel at the hospital, and as well to make sure the collaboration is professional enough. We see a lot of companies that tend to be focusing on friends and relations inside the hospital that are not used to doing R&D work, and as well not used to do it in a professional way, and that often ends up with results that cannot be used, for instance, in a regulatory process. On the other side, the hospitals, I think, has a procurement process that makes it quite difficult for SMEs to succeed in the market. And we as well do a lot of discussions how to ease up the processes and help innovative solutions to reach the market. The fourth topic is, I think, within the hospital is as well a little battle about this, because most professionals at the hospitals are more concerned about getting their degrees, and that's done by writing scientific papers in a doctorate. Then having culture for actually focusing on innovation projects is more difficult, I think. And as well, the normal way of thinking is that industry collaboration is kind of a second topic of interest for most professionals within hospitals. In addition to that, we see a lot of national barriers that makes it difficult for companies to succeed internationally. So in total, all these 5 topics, I think, is the background that needs to be addressed to make international collaboration for innovation a success. So what's Nordic Proof? It's a network of professional hospitals that tries to make it easier for companies to get in contact with the right hospital and right professionals at the hospital. That's the concept of it. I'll give you some more ideas on how we're working. One point of contact to the network for companies. You just submit a question to the network through the coordinators, and then we discuss the case internally and see what kind of services that we could provide the company. And as soon as possible, we would like the company to get in contact with the right actual people that should discuss the case with each company. I just put up some cases for you. The first case I would like to focus is the case of Independence Gear. It's a company that started out testing with the innovation department at one of the main rehabilitation hospitals in Norway called Sunnaas Hospital. And they found a very good collaborative project together and developed a project, a full product that is now on the market. What we did then within Nordic Proof, before they launched it to the market, they did as well user tests both in Copenhagen and in Stockholm. So the company then actually knew about the market conditions both in Norway, Sweden and Denmark before they launched and finalized the product. And I think for the company, we had a saying from the company, the Carl Christian Solsem in the company, that said, without access to real-life testing facilities at Nordic Proof partners, we could not have product in the market. So, and as well for the company, it was a quite niche product as well. So for them to succeed, I think it's crucial for them to see Nordic as one market, and of course outside the Nordic as well. But Nordic Proof helped them to understand the market conditions in all and the user needs in all the Nordic markets at once. I think that's maybe the main topic for my presentation. So now they're already starting developing their second product together with Sunnaas, and we do already plan how to do the testing of that device around in the Nordics and get user feedbacks before they launch the product. The second case is a case called the RabMed. It was a really early stage ID actually coming to Nordic Proof, asking whether they could get a feedback from the professionals surrounding the Nordics, what the outcome and importance of the ID they had. So we together with the company, established the interview guide with the questions that should be asked to the professionals. And then we arranged for one-day workshop at several hospitals in the Nordics. So they traveled around to each hospital, conducting that interview and workshop. And after the workshop, they wrote up a sum-up report from the interview and sent to the company. And the feedback from the company was that this report actually gave them the right incentives to continue with the development of the product. And as they wrote, we came in selling the product as if we were doing a sales pitch. We soon realized that the meetings were most valuable to us if we sat back and allowed them to be brutally honest, almost prompting their most critical feedback. Because I think that's actually what the entrepreneur needs in the first phase when they develop a product, to get a harsh, actually, feedback on what they're developing. So that's the two cases. And in the coming two slides, I'll just give the words to the test manager at different hospitals in Nordic Proof. I hope the sound will work okay for you. The first one is from Sunnaas. So let's hear what they have to say. Okay, so coming back from that token here, these are the partners of Nordic Proof right now. It's in total 8 partners around in the Nordics, and as you see as well, we have now put into action municipal test centers like living labs, because we see that having a group of both hospital test centers and living labs in the consortium would make it even more attractive for the industry to collaborate. So we're these days we are looking for partners in the Nordics to expand the network of partners within Nordic Proof, at least with 3 or 4 new members. So what's the services of Nordic Proof? Just to go through, you can have these slides later on as well. If the event organizer could share the presentation, feel free to do so. At least these are topics, if you look at it from a product development cycle, for a medtech or e-health company, these are some of the steps you need to go through, and we just pinpointed some of the topics that we could support the company throughout this development cycle. And I think it often starts up with a small, maybe meeting, a workshop, and then it ends up hopefully in a full clinical trial before you launch the product to the market. How to get in contact through our website. You can fill in the form, and then we can keep on having the dialogue. And I think as well, I would really like to be in Tallinn today to meet all of you. Now it's closed, so it wouldn't be any outcome of it. But in the future, I would like to come there, and to make it easier now in these Corona days, it would be nice to have online meetings with you as well, if you like to catch up with me, some of the companies that would discuss about this topic. So I were asked by the coordinator, the conference organizer, to talk about what are the barriers and challenges as we see it from practical work within this area. And I put that up for discussion for two different perspectives, one for the companies. I think most of my work with the companies actually are to discuss how they could find funding. because they need funding to do a professional test to get to the hospital. It's not for free. It shouldn't be for free either. I think it's really important that it's the professional relationship between the company and the health institutions about what should be done in a very professional testing perspective, and that needs funding. And for the Nordic and as well, of course, the area where you live in, having good incentives and grants for companies that need to fund testing would be much easier then. I think as well it's a challenge for the companies to be more clear on the strategy they have before they go into collaboration with the health institution. To be more clear on the intended use. If you've been into a regulatory process, you should know what intended use is about, and at least having a clear definition of what you should aim for in the collaboration with the health institutions. If you don't do that, I'm sure you could have a good dialogue with the hospital, but I think you need to be very clear on your needs before you go into the hospital and buy services. Sometimes as well we see companies that don't actually understand the culture and the setting they are coming into health institutions, and that maybe lead to a little bit frustration sometimes. If you put on the challenges for the healthcare institutions, I think what we see in Nordic Proof, at least from time to time, it's difficult to get the right people attending into the right case. What we see in Nordic Proof that we actually managed to balance that out with then giving the case to a different hospital. So at least until now, we've been able to support most of the companies coming to Nordic Proof, finding people around in different hospitals in the Nordics. What we really see as a challenge inside the hospital is the infrastructure for technology. Sometimes it's really difficult to test out e-health applications or medtech devices within a digital solution that should be implemented into the ecosystem of the existing infrastructure. That's really hard, and we see the more advanced the technology is, the more difficult that topic is. So I think if it's a challenge for the hospital, it's to see for solutions that can make it easier for early phase testing, maybe in a technology setting that is not in a operational setting, but in a more test setting, and as well be clear on what kind of APIs they have and what kind of opportunities they have for integration. So maybe that's the main topic for the healthcare institutions, to be supporting these kind of activities. Yeah, that's I think all for me for today. As you heard in the beginning, the corona is really scaling now in Norway, so they closed down all activities. I'm sitting in Oslo Science Park almost alone today. It's a building with 1,500 employees, so it's quite strange days in Norway. But feel free to contact me. I put up my mail address, bhl@norwayhealthtech.com, and you could put up an online meeting for further follow-up after the conference today.
Thank you so much, Bent Håkon. I have one question for you on your presentation. You mentioned the procurement process. How would you make it better for companies to get into these procurement processes with hospitals or health care services?
Yeah, we've been a little bit careful about going into procurement processes with the Nordic Proof initiatives, but my daily basis in Norway Health Tech, that is the largest health tech cluster in Norway, we focus a lot on how to make it easier for startups and SMEs to enter into the Norwegian market. So maybe in my answer then would be more focusing on the Norwegian setting. So what we're doing there is to put up a targeted demo days for health professionals to meet with companies, and we also do a lot of dialogue meetings for the procurers within the hospitals and the healthcare sector to get the knowledge about all the SME systems more available for the decision makers within the hospitals. So, for instance, this coming Monday, due to the corona crisis, we're putting up an online event for emergency equipments for all the hospitals and for the procurer there. So the industry will then be able to get to know what's the need. and then start developing product that is short in the market right now. So that's a concrete example this Monday. It's really exciting times as well when it comes for the industry to support this crisis.
Very interesting indeed. Thank you so much, Bent Håkon, and be safe there in Norway. And we'll continue with Skype presentations. We have Jagadesh Gandla from EIT Health, and he will talk about living labs and test beds for entrepreneurs. Jagadesh, are you online? Okay, if you have any questions, you can still send them to us on Facebook page, and we will answer them or get the experts to answer them. And this is very interesting times to have a webinar because of the virus situation. But as you can see, this e-technology is wonderful, so we can be in contact like this through Facebook and online media. Jagadesh Gandla, you're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. It's a scary time. So how should I just share my slides, or are you going to put up my slides? Cool. So let me introduce myself. My name is Jagadish Gandla. I work as an accelerator program manager at an organization called EIT Health, and I work in Munich, in Germany. It's a headquarters of EIT Health. So before jumping into Living Labs and Testbeds project, I'm gonna just share you few bits and nuggets about EIT Health. Oh, I see that there are 2 slides on your on your screen. Okay. Anyway, so EIT Health. EIT Health, what we are doing is basically we provide access to knowledge. I mean, I believe that few of them know about EIT Health. Otherwise, don't worry, I'm gonna just introduce a little bit of EIT Health. EIT Health is also an European Union organization. The parent organization is EIT, which is funded by European Union organization, and then we kind of are called as Knowledge and Innovation Community in the healthcare. We are EIT Health, and we have local offices all across Europe. Headquarters is Munich, but we have like 7 local offices called as co-location centers. And what we do is that we provide access to knowledge, we provide access to stakeholders, we provide access to market, and we provide access to finance. And within EIT Health, we have 3 pillars. We call them pillars because we just want to separate what we do. And the first pillar, what you see, is in innovation. In the innovation pillar, we launch big projects where the industry partners or academic partners, they come up with novel problems or solutions, and then we kind of fund them how to scale the big projects all across Europe. And the second is accelerator. That's where I work in. In the accelerator, it's all about startups. So we have several programs. I will show you a bit that how we support startups from incubation phase to the scale out phase. And then third pillar is called as campus. In the campus, it's all about education. So we provide education all across Europe. It could be online courses, it could be summer schools, it could be whatnot. Like we have our own master's degrees, PhD degrees. So we do all across Europe. And today the topic is more in the accelerator because the Living Labs project is in accelerator. And in the accelerator, as I said, we have a couple of programs. I think around 12 to 13 programs we have. We incubate the programs. So for example, if there are any PhD students, postdocs who are watching this webinar or watching this presentation, so if you have an idea, just come to us. We have something called as boot camps. In the boot camps, we help you to validate your business model, and we basically help you to launch your first idea. And then we have other program called as Validate. In the Validate, we have mainly the Living Labs and Test Beds program is in this validate line, and we there it's all about validating your idea or validating your product. And the other one is basically providing you access to the funding, and we call that as scale up and scale out. So it could be if you're aiming at let's say 500K or even 30 million, we have programs for that. So that's a bit in a nutshell about accelerator. We incubate, we validate, and we scale up or we scale out. Okay, now let's jump into a few numbers of EIT Health accelerators. Specifically, like until now, we have supported around 600 plus startups. We have around 50 million investments attracted, and we have around 150 plus partners all across Europe. When I say partners, it's all about universities or the big pharmaceutical companies. So they collaborate with us and they get funding from us, and then they launch the projects. And we have around 15 plus programs within Accelerator, and we have 7 regional networks in Europe, which are called as co-location centers, and each co-location center has a headquarters. I think in for Scandinavia, we have Stockholm as our headquarters. Okay, now let's jump into Living Labs and Test Beds project. So I'm a leader of this project, and with a couple of other partners as well. And so what exactly is this project is that we are a network of living labs. So we have our access to around 100 healthcare living labs. And this network is all about ideation, co-creation, and validation. Our main objectives are to basically build a big network of living labs all across Europe, if possible, all across the world. But right now we focus more on Europe. And the first aim of this network is to provide access to startups to ideate, to co-create, or validate their services. And also, if there are any new living labs that want to join our network, we want to train them as well. And from last year on, with the help of people from here in the Nordics, an organization called iShom. With iShom, we are also trying to engage citizen and patients with our startups. So we want to put citizen and patients in the brain of the startup in the initial phase itself. Like, I mean, we normally, when you look at the startups, they think mostly about the funding. It's all about the valuation and everything. But especially in the healthcare, they need to think about the citizen and patients as well. And if they think from the beginning on, it would make them more successful than just not only money. So that's what we want to bring in this project. Okay, so I'm going to just show you what kind of living labs we have in different co-location centers. In France, maybe you recognize some of the living labs. So we have a strong network of living labs in France, and this is in Spain. So I'm just skipping you so that you recognize a couple of the names. Maybe you are also there in this network. And this is Belgium and Netherlands. This is UK, Ireland. This is Scandinavia. So this is I think Tartu Hospital is one of the living lab. And we also have Tester Center, which is a test bed. We have Smile Incubator. We have KTH. So all these are in Scandinavia. And we also have some in Germany. And last in InnoStars. So these are the networks that we have all across Europe. We span across 100 living labs, but out of the 100, we have only a couple of them are active. I will show you how many exactly. And this project is not only run by EIT Health. It's a project run by a couple of partners. We have partners from France, Spain. Also, RISE joined our partnership this year from from this region. And we have some partners from Belgium and Netherlands. And what we do in this project is that we have a platform. A platform, its name is Kronos. So we list living labs here. So for example, you see here LLTBs, 56 of them. So they're all listed on this platform. It's a matchmaking platform. And what we do is that whenever living labs want to apply to our program, we ask them to join this platform. And once they join, we kind of vet them. We interview them to really understand whether they are a living lab or test bed or not. If they are not, we may reject them. Otherwise, if they want to get trained as a living lab, then we are trying to provide a training to them. And the startups which are within EIT Health, if they have funding, I will also show you some funding schemes that we are trying to provide to the startups. we invite them to this platform, and then on this platform, when a startup enters, based on their needs and based on their location, they can access the living labs. So on the left side, you see living labs, and then the startups, they could filter them out, and then we connect them. So in the connection, it's all about exchanging materials, identifying which living labs fits to the needs of the startups, and then we deliver some kind of contracts and everything through automated emails. So this is our main tool. We would say, like, it's a platform called Kronos. On Kronos, everything will be listed, startups will be listed, and even we provide access to the partners who want to join our consortium, so they can have a look into what all things exist on our platform. And we also have a lot of material that if somebody wants to access on the platform. Okay, and so last year we supported around 20 startups with the financial support of EIT Health. Each startup received 5,000 euros. And with that 5,000 euros, they could get access to our living labs, and some of them have already validated their products. And these are the 20 startups that have validated. And today I'm going to share you one success case study. It's a startup called Predical, and they basically collaborated with a living lab called Madopa. Madopa is from France, and Madopa has access to several stakeholders. They have access to research, insurers, healthcare providers, local authorities, industries. So it's a very well-positioned living lab within Paris region. So a startup called Predical, they collaborated with them. And what Predical does is that they have devices which monitor elderly people within their homes. So to see if they are behaving properly or not, if they have any problems. So they kind of monitors 24 hours if the people are doing well. And today I will share you two examples of the patients, or not the patients, like the elderly people, how they react to this device. For example, here it's a lady named Patricia. She's 62 years old. She has 4 sons, 2 daughters. She's in good contact with the neighbors. And her routine, she organizes quite well. She has good life, good family. And we asked whether this system, like if she is monitored, how does she feel? Then she said that I received the report. They can see the monitor, everything. And I think that's great. I feel insecurity. So this feedback, like when we got to know from this old woman, it's amazing. Like, so she feels secure. So that means like it's a positive news. So let's see the next example. Her name is Marie. She's 73 years. She lives independently. She's a widow. She has 3 sons. Good relation as before with neighbors. And she has her routines, like cooking, enjoy, and she basically, doesn't like to share her personal life. And when we ask for the feedback of the system, she says that we are watched like oil on the fire. This is not reassuring, not useful. For the time being, we are fit. This is completely useless. So, here we have seen 2 examples. One is completely positive, another one is negative. So this is the power of living labs, that the startups can get help from them. So with that, we could see that the stakeholders who are in the project, they say that the professional caregivers, they say they are happy with the system. And then the insurance company says they're also happy with the system. So in conclusion, Madopa helped the Predical, the startup, in 2 ways. So to better understand the needs and feelings of the elderly individuals, an introduction to the new stakeholders, and also identification of new business opportunities from B2B. So this is what we want. We really aim at. This is all aimed at the startups. So we want to build a network of living labs and provide access to the startups to go and validate their product. So in a nutshell, we also have several other things. I don't want to go in detail of everything. I will just share a couple of things. We have a Living Labs Academy. So in the Living Labs Academy, it's all about training the living labs, or also training the startups, also training the public what living labs can offer. So it's going quite well. And we have a new partner, TU Delft, who is taking care of it quite well. And we also developed a self-assessment tool for living labs. So if they want to really analyze what they're good at, what they're bad at, so they can use our tool. It's just an Excel tool as of now. We also saw yesterday a self-assessment tool developed by this consortium. So it's amazing that we have 2 tools. I'm also happy to share ours, and then we can compare. And the startup support, which is the central aim of the project. And we also collaborated we recently started a collaboration with European Network of Living Labs. And we have a new unique vetting of new living labs. Vetting in the sense like the interviewing of living labs. We know now, like, I mean, it's always difficult to really understand what living labs are because everybody are unique. But we kind of developed a methodology how to really identify if they are living labs or not. And we also provide trainings for that, for the living labs. And we are also now open for industry partners. So we are looking more at the sustainable strategy. As of now, it's completely EIT Health funded, and slowly we are moving towards the sustainability, and we are looking at industrial partners. And we also engage citizen patient with the startups, with an organization called ISHOM. And for 2020, we are providing startup support as well. So we will provide vouchers. So each voucher costs 7,500. So EIT Health will provide 7,500 to the startup, and the startup has to bring 2,500 as a co-funding. So that shows the seriousness that the startups are interested to join the program. And the overall aim is to basically provide 10,000 euro support from our living labs. And how it works is that we have centralized process. We have an application tool called Optimi. And on Kronos, we do matchmaking. And we also recruiting our own startups from other programs of EIT Health. It's not only, so that means we not only have vouchers, we also have other startups that are coming to the program. And in the second half of the year, we are also looking for the startups that have their own funding. So until now, we support startups only within EIT Health, but we are also open for other startups if they come with their own funding. So call to action. So I want to basically invite you to all collaborate with us. So you can join as a living labs and testbeds in our network, or if you are a startup, you can apply to our program, or if you want to just get access to the living labs, just approach me or our partners. We will be happy to collaborate with you. And if you want to know more about our programs, you can if you have a QR code scanner, just scan it. So you will get to know all the programs that we have. On 16th of March, many of our programs closes. So if you're a startup, just go ahead. So that's it. Feel free to write to me if there are any questions. Otherwise, go on to our website and have a look. And I'm open for questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Jagadesh. Really interesting. So still, on a nutshell, you had really good concrete pieces of advice how to contact you and how to go forward. But let's say that a small Estonian startup would like to be part of your Living Lab network. How should they act in order to get into your program and Living Labs?
There's an open call as of now out. It's better you just go onto our website and have a look. And many of our some of our, not many, like couple of them are already on the program. I don't remember the startup name because we supported nearly 800 startups until now. So they know how to get access to our programs. It's not, Living Labs is just one of the programs. We have 16 plus programs. They can get access to everything, and there's an open call right now. And the other way, or the easy way, is to get in touch with our local business creation managers. They live in Stockholm. Their names are Harsha and Christos. So if they get to know them, they will be constantly sending the notifications or any kind of newsletters if there is something. I mean, today we were supposed to have Merike here. If Merike was there, she was also supposed to give a lot of details, but unfortunately, I don't see her name in the agenda anymore. But otherwise, just drop me an email. I will send all the details.
Brilliant, Jagadesh. Thank you so much, and
sure.
Have a good day there. And let's hope that many startups will get inspired and encouraged to be in contact with you or all the other experts that we've been listening to today. Piret, welcome back. Piret here, she's the lady behind the organization of this summit today. And, well, how are you now?
Thank you, Mario. I'm doing pretty good because really there are some things you cannot control in your life, right? But actually, we had a really great discussions. Also, we got some feedback from Facebook and other online channels. So people were watching, people were happy. Probably also some good tips and tricks how to move forward, how to collaborate with different stakeholders. And I would like to thank all the technical team and who were behind the scenes, because it really looked outside nice and organized. So, and also you, Mario, thank you. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Piret, for organizing this, and thanks for all the team, and thank you for all the viewers and technical staff and all the speakers. And when will we have another Living Lab Summit? Do you dare to look into a crystal ball?
Actually, the work is ongoing, and this was just a one event to underline all the topics, but for the Connected Health Cluster, for Tehnopol, and for the other living labs, is a strategic process to involve stakeholders, to involve startups, and to develop solutions and to implement these innovative solutions in healthcare. So I guess that work is ongoing, despite the fact what is happening outside. So when is exactly the next event? It remains to be seen, actually. But stay tuned, and we will advertise our next events soon.
And it has been brilliant for me to see as well, to see how many great specialists are in the field, and what kind of networks and living labs and innovations are actually going into progress and are progressing and coming into action as well. So I think we're looking into a very bright future at the moment.
Yeah, and I can see that sun is shining outside as well. So thank you, Mario, and I think that we should end here. And thank you all behind the screens, and see you soon.